So, man,
I knew I was missing something.
you know you're missing something.
Yeah, I'm missing my watch. That's
Missing
all
your
right.
what?
Yeah, but I'm at home, so I don't feel too naked without it.
All right. Uh, we don't want to see that anyway. Lanessa, you officially, take us into our 5 minutes because we are definitely officially live.
Vanessa, where you
Okay.
at?
I'm from the comfort of my home office,
Oh wow.
coming to you
Okay.
live from my home office studio here in
First time I ever
Beltsville,
seen you at
Maryland.
home.
Really? I've been at home before. Maybe you weren't on the show. I know
Hmm.
I'm out a lot, but I do stay at home sometimes
Oh, okay.
But this
when
is
Chris allows me. He misses me when I'm not there, but I say, Chris, sometimes I have to break away
Hmm.
because Rob can't. I can't sit next to Rob every day. Every time we.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
welcome everybody. We're officially live. We're going to wait for some viewers to come in. We have a special guest tonight with us, and this is a very important topic that we'll be discussing. So definitely share as you listen and learn. Please share the information because we need to get this out to our community. It's really important. It affects our children, our grandchildren, our wives, even males, our sons, our daughters. So definitely share this topic, and please ask questions as we get into this session today. And hello to my co-host. I'm Lanessa Puffin Pretty Terry. I'll be hosting today, and I also have Big Rob with me.
Hey.
And of course, Mr. Chris Riley, aka Dr. Sayso. And the cool thing about this is that this show, the Smoking Jacket broadcast, has different topics. We focus on cigars primarily. However, we really cater to the cigar culture and community and some of the issues and things that we might want to discuss. So it's not just about cigars. Hey, Jay, welcome to the show. There's Jay Ferg coming to us from an undisclosed location.
No, I'm back in Florida.
Oh, you're in Florida?
Right,
okay.
what's up, brother? All right. I like that scene you got
I like
behind
the backdrop.
you. Yeah.
The background is dope, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't set it up that way. It just happened.
There you go.
Okay. That's cool. But I was just saying that the show is not just about cigars. We talk about all different topics that affect our community, and we have a very important one today. Please follow us or you like and share and subscribe to our YouTube page. That is our main platform where you can find all of our past episodes. We've been on for over a year now, and I'm very excited about that. We've been able to hold the team together and hold it down. I don't know how many episodes we have. Chris, how many episodes now?
We have 62 episodes. Oh, it's 65 episodes right now.
65.
Wow. We definitely got to.
That's a lot. 65.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I had to delete some because I didn't want to pay for storage.
Oh, you deleted some. Well, you archived them somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, I did archive them. Yes, I did.
Okay, but you can definitely follow us here on Facebook as well. And we also have an Instagram page, so you can follow us on that page. So, Jay, I know you last to join us, but I'll start with you. What's been going on? I know Destination Herf is kicking off. You already have some early bird sales active?
No, actually, we go live next Monday. Next Monday, tickets officially go on sale for the early bird for Destination Herf. For the first week, we're doing something a little different this year. So for the first week, from the 1st through the 8th, if you buy one ticket, you get a second one for free for that first week.
That's big.
So for me, I've been super busy. Just got done doing another food festival for Lauderdale this past Friday. So I'm officially on event hiatus for the next 2 months.
Okay.
It's been pretty busy the first part of the year. But I'm happy to be taking this 2-month break to kind of focus on Destination Herf and some other ventures I have percolating right now. So, but other than that, I'm good, man. I can't complain at all.
Keeping busy. Okay.
Very busy.
What about you, Rob? What's been going
on? Enjoying the retired life. I'm retired. I wake up when I want to. I go to sleep when I want to. I'm just doing things around the house, trying to get caught up on little tasks like cleaning the gutters and doing the flower beds and stuff like that. Getting my garden started. If you look behind
Okay.
me, I got my little popsicle stick sticking up in my little seed tray, and so I'm just doing the little things that kind of make me, and just staying out the way. So
Okay. I didn't know you garden too. That's
don't
awesome.
tell anybody, but I got a really good green thumb. Like
Wow. So
yeah, it's
what are your seedlings that you have in the trays?
well.
He live
Let me
he
see.
live on Green Acres. He ought to be able to do something.
Well, I got a romaine lettuce going. I got Japanese long cucumbers going. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. And I got some
Okay.
pink ponderosa tomatoes. I got every pepper known to mankind. I just do stuff that kind of keeps my mind occupied. I
That's
can't. I'm
awesome.
not building rockets anymore, so I
You gotta do
was.
something.
I got to
Mm.
find something to keep myself occupied.
Something that's not rocket science.
Not anymore. I did it for almost 20 years. I'm retired. So
Mm.
Smart guy. Well, I know we're at the top of the hour. Last but not least, what's up, Chris? What's going on?
You know what? A partner of mine used to always say, "Slow boogie." I'm just chilling,
Just chilling.
just chilling.
All right. Well, I want to thank you again, Chris, for allowing us to bring this awesome topic. We're going to be talking about human and sex trafficking. Hot topic. And we have an expert who's local and who Chris knows, Miss Doctor, not Miss, Dr. Venetta Rather is with us today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Hey,
So I'm going to formally introduce Dr. Rather to our viewers. And thank you for those who are listening. Again, please like, share this information, chime in with your questions. Chris will be quarterbacking on the questions and answer session when we get to that point. But let me do this nice introduction. So Dr. Venetta Rather is a gifted preacher, author, and a fierce advocate for women and girls. She's the founder of My Sister, My Seed Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit that empowers women and girls and fights sex trafficking. Dr. Rather's mission is to protect young women and girls from sex trafficking and help in the restorative process for young women and girls already impacted. Dr. Rather is also the host of the weekly live radio and podcast show Defiant Women Win. I love the name of that podcast, Defiant Women Win. She is the author of 2 books, All the Single Ladies and Defiant Women of Faith. So I'm loving her already, Chris. It's great that you allowed her to come on the show, but she speaks on topics that are very passionate to myself as well. So welcome again, and we are so happy to have you today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me to talk about such an important topic.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, besides what I stated in the introduction.
Okay, well, I am a fierce advocate for women and girls. My sole purpose is to empower women and girls. So I not only founded My Sister, My Seed, which is 10 years old this year. I also created Defiant Women Win, and both of these organizations have websites. So if you want to learn more about My Sister, My Seed and how we fight sex trafficking, you can go to mysistermyseed.org. You can also go to defiantwomenwin.com and learn about me and how I am just focused, laser focused on empowering women so we can be everything that God created us to be, so we can thrive and heal and live our purpose and do what we're created to do. So everything I kind of do is about empowering women and empowering girls and making sure that we live our best lives, the lives God created us to
mm.
And God bless you for that. And I know that a lot of times we operate in our passions. Like it's important that we operate and do the things that we love. What made you want to focus on this as a topic, helping women and dealing with women and sex trafficking and helping women be empowered? What made you so passionate about the topic?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I started My Sister, My Seed when I was a youth pastor. I pastored youth over a 15-year period. And, when I was pastoring young people, I began to hear about sex trafficking. And I always want to learn everything I can about issues that impacted young people. So when I began to learn about how horrific sex trafficking is and how it destroys, young girls are targeted. I'm talking about 12 years old. When I realized that these young girls were being forced and coerced and manipulated into sleeping, not sleeping with, but being raped by and having sex with 10 and 20 men a day, it just disturbed my heart. And I just couldn't let it go. And I know for a fact that when something disturbs your heart, that is God signaling to you that that is your work to do. So I just began to educate myself about it. And then I wanted to not only educate myself, I wanted to educate young girls and families and churches and communities, because a lot of people think that sex trafficking is something that happens in foreign countries. They don't realize that it happens in every state in the United States, in every community, even affluent communities. And I just wanted people to be aware of it and know what the signs are and how we can protect girls, especially Black girls, because although sex trafficking happens to all girls, it disproportionately impacts girls of color, because girls of color make up 13% of the population, in their demographic. Black people make up 13% of the population in this country, but Black girls account for over 50%, maybe 60 and 70%, depending on what area it is, of all trafficking victims. So if you make up 13%, but you account for all those trafficking incidents, that means it's particularly happening to Black girls. And I just want to make sure I do my part in raising awareness and helping to empower young girls, because healthy sense of self and a healthy self-esteem is the best defense that young girls have against trafficking.
Absolutely, because that transfers, later in life, that continues, if that doesn't become, if it doesn't get fixed, or if they don't have therapy, et cetera. And I know it just doesn't happen to women. We know that young boys, young men are also sex trafficked, but I know that's your focus. So I just want to be clear to our listeners that we do know that it impacts, all sex, both sexes, not just females. So when did you start your nonprofit? That's my last question, and then I'm going to roll it over to my co-host. When did you actually start your nonprofit?
In 2013. So we are 10 years old this year, and I'm very
Congratulations.
because when I started, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm not sure. I still know what I'm doing, but I am finding my way. And for a small nonprofit like mine, and building it by myself, not by myself, but with resources, and for it to have survived for 10 years, I think that's important, and I'm proud that I was able to keep her. My seed, keep her alive for 10 years at least.
Definitely. Congratulations. I know how hard it can be to have a nonprofit and look for resources. So listeners, be ready to see how you can support later on in the show. So I'm going to roll it over to Jay. Jay, can you unmute and let Dr. Rather know if you have any questions?
Yeah, so my question is, first of all, it's great to meet you. Thank you for coming on the show tonight and joining us.
Thank you.
Did you have a personal experience, not necessarily you per se, but someone you knew person that was affected by this? Was that your motivation for getting started with this?
No, I don't know anyone. I didn't have anybody in my family. It didn't happen to me or anyone that I knew, but it was happening to the young people in the age group that I was pastoring. And for me, that was personal. So I wanted to make sure that I at least protected those I was pastoring, because I was a youth pastor for over 15 years. And so that's how I got involved. I wanted to do my best to educate the young people that I was serving. And so that's why I wanted initially to learn about it.
Nice. Well, definitely applaud you for your efforts, because again, it's a serious issue that needs to be addressed. And I think I actually mentioned to someone today that we were having this topic today, and they were saying like it's a topic that not a lot of people want to address or touch, and I'm like, that's what I love about our show, because we're not afraid to touch certain topics and push that envelope a little bit. So definitely keep doing your thing, and we definitely here to support that.
Thank you. And thank y'all for having this show. This is really important.
I'm going to roll it over to Rob. Rob, what questions do you have for Dr. Rather?
Well, Dr. Rather, it's very nice to meet you. I wish the topics were, not so grim, but, this is the reality that we live in today, unfortunately. like you, I'm a very big advocate. Maybe I haven't, done anything near as much as you have, and contributed towards the cause. But I've made my contributions as far as charity and belong to certain organizations. And so that brings me to my question, which is, um, what I know that obtaining resources and trying to do the work that you do is very time consuming and extremely resource dependent, I suppose. Do you have any partnerships with any other organizations that are maybe either government funded or state sponsored or anything along those lines that you could that you either do or you could partner up with or you're eyeing about partnering up with?
Yes, I partner with several organizations, but not for financial support, but just to do the work to make sure we are all doing the work. So, Beloved Community Church is a church that has a sex trafficking organization. I've partnered with Courtney's House. Courtney's House is a much larger organization than mine, and I'm sure she has government funding, but I partnered with her to learn about sex trafficking early on. I've partnered with another group where I taught dance to young girls who have been trafficked. I mean, I've partnered with a whole lot of different organizations and churches, but one in terms of helping me become a financially sustainable organization, I have to give credit to Urban Awareness. Urban Awareness is a community that helps small nonprofits learn everything from A to Z about running a nonprofit, building a nonprofit, finding funding for nonprofits. And they have helped me tremendously in making sure that, I have a strong foundation for my nonprofit. But in terms of partnering with community organizations that are, even if they're not sex trafficking organizations, if they are community organizations, I've done seminars in middle schools and high schools and in churches. And so they don't have to be a sex trafficking organization primarily for me to partner and do work with them. They just have to have a demographic and a population and an audience of young people that I can teach, or I can help adults who teach young people understand what trafficking looks like, how it happens, and what signs to look for, and things of that nature.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Chris, I know we're going to go back to you later, Rob, but Chris, do you have any questions right now?
Oh, well, Dr. Rather, one of my being my doctorate is in psychology, one of them anyway. What help is provided after? I mean, because I know some of these individuals have to be traumatized in the worst way. Is there any group or any advocacy program that you work with that get them the counseling that they need, whether it be psychological or psychiatry wise, and hopefully that it doesn't get to that point?
Yes, we don't. My sister, my seed doesn't do that kind of psychology work. So we do referrals, and every state. Well, let me say now Maryland, including Maryland now, as of early April, have now just put a law in place. It hasn't been signed by the governor yet, but he will sign it, and it will affect in October. It's called the Safe Harbor Law, and it make sure that young girls who are caught up and victims of sex trafficking aren't criminalized by our justice system and labeled as prostitutes or arrested for some kind of behavior that they are doing, some kind of criminal behavior that they've done as a result of being victims of sex trafficking. So there are different states and different counties and different cities all have resources for girls who are victims of sex trafficking. So there are a plethora of places and resources that you can Google. So anyone who's listening, you can call the hotline. The sex trafficking hotline is a 24/7 hotline. If you suspect that someone is being trafficked, and plugging into that, Prince George's County has a sex trafficking hotline task force. Right. There are so many resources out here that you can call any police station and they will plug you into well, let me not say any police station, because certainly there are those who are behind and aren't on the front line of, resources for girls. But there's an easy way to get psychological help, to get financial help, to get shelter help, to get all kinds of help for young girls who you suspect are victims of sex trafficking.
So, Dr. Rather, let's talk about Chris. I'm sorry, did you have a follow-up?
Oh no, I just, while I had the opportunity, I just wanted to thank you in times past for one, coming to Springfield Baptist Church on the South Campus side and enlightening us. You've come on a couple occasions, even come to preach the gospel, and I mean, we were able to share a wealth of information that still resonates with us today. Your name resonates throughout the walls of Springfield Baptist Church, both North and South Campus. So I'm sure we'll be having you back at some point or another to come do. Absolutely. Vanessa.
And thank you, Chris, again for making the suggestion to have Dr. Rather on to talk about such an important topic. But let's talk about how this happens, Dr. Rather. We know that people are victimized, but sometimes the people you least expect will be victimized, or the traffickers who actually come after these young women are the least people that the victims will expect, because they can actually be lured in by people they know. And I think a lot of times that is what happens, and people don't realize that. So can you talk about how this actually happens? Some examples of what you've seen.
Sure. Now, what I would really want people to know is that anybody can be a trafficker. Anybody. We have caught, not we personally, but people who have trafficked girls have been pastors, police officers, parents, friends, next door neighbors, politicians. There is no set profile for a trafficker, so I don't want anybody to think that they have to look a certain way. There have been men, women, it doesn't matter. Anyone can be a trafficker. And how it happens is that there is supply and demand. There is a high demand for sex with children, and there are people who are willing to supply that demand. And you can, now laws are changing, but drug dealers, gang members, everyone is switching over or find it more financially lucrative to sell girls rather than sell drugs and guns, because you weren't initially being really punished, and it was hard to prosecute those who were selling girls, as it wasn't as easy to prosecute that as it was to prosecute people for selling guns and drugs. So initially, or why does it happen? If that's the question, it happens because there is a high demand for sex with children, and there are people who are willing to supply that demand. And it happens easily because the population that they are targeting are young girls, right? And yes, of course, young boys are trafficked too. I don't want anyone to hear me, say that they're not, because they are. But we have adults who know and understand that the mind of young people is not fully developed. And there are a lot of girls who look for attention, who are starved of self-esteem and self-worth and self-love. And we know in this country that 1 in 3 girls have been molested by age 18. 1 in 3, that's a lot of girls. So put all that together with this high demand for sex with children, and put these girls who they are targeting, who are girls with low self-esteem, girls that these traffickers are looking to manipulate, form of relationship that is based on love, supposed love, and giving this girl what she's never had before, but really they're reeling her in to trick her and hook her into sex trafficking. And knowing that we have so many girls who who definitely suffer from low self-esteem, from all kind of issues, but a lot because of sexual violation and molestation. So when I was doing research, I learned that a girl's first A girl is first fondled, most likely first fondled at age 5 years old. So that young girls are conditioned really. Too many, and I'm not speaking generally, but too many, have, these insecurities, lack of self-love, and all of these is a recipe that these traffickers use to manipulate them into sex trafficking. And that is primarily, I know I went kind of around the Marbury bush, but that is primarily why it's happening. There's a high demand for it. There's a population of young people who have these deficits, self-love deficits, that traffickers are willing and wanting to exploit, and they use that to um, channel them into trafficking because they need something. Traffickers are manipulating them, and the cycle begins.
And how does social media play a factor in that? Do you see that?
Oh yes, because we know from adults that nobody is really who they say they are on social media. Let's just be real. We all put up pictures. We put our best pictures up, right? We present it in some way.
Right.
I'm never going to put an ugly picture on social media of myself. I'm just not going to do that. So, but I think we have to also understand that adults who are looking to manipulate young girls are not who they say they are either. So as girls, and when you put certain pictures up, it, and maybe generally I shouldn't say this, but I'm just gonna say it.
Right. I understand.
Tells where your self-esteem is. When you are posting pictures showing yourself in a certain light, it's kind of a trigger for a trafficker to say, hey, maybe I can manipulate her. And traffickers aren't there pretending to be, peers and friends when they could be grown men and grown women interacting with you. Recently, a woman called me and told me that her next door neighbor her next door neighbor was shot. Her family were immigrants, and the girl was missing. And come to find out, she had met somebody online who told her to come across state lines. They found her in Florida. And this exchange between them two initially happened on social media. So can social media be a great opportunity for families to connect and stay connected and meet friends? Yes, but it is also the place where girls are being ensnared and enslaved in trafficking, because that's what trafficking is. It is modern day slavery. And a lot of the victims of trafficking are connected via social media, because young girls have a tendency to share a lot about themselves. See, traffickers use a grooming process to enslave girls. So they learn a lot about you. And young girls put a lot of their life in social media, a lot of their life and their story on social media. They put all their business on social media. So a trafficker is reading all of that stuff, getting all the details. He wants to know her hopes, her dreams. He wants to know all about her so he can groom her and say, I'm the one who loves you. I want to support your dream. I want to, do all of these things, because based on the information that she has shared, he uses that information, then isolates her from family and friends, and gets her to come across lines or go wherever he needs her to go. And that's how it happens a lot through social media.
And it's interesting.
Can happen anywhere. It doesn't just happen on social media. It can happen at your church. It can happen at school. It can happen anywhere.
And one of our viewers, thank you for that comment, Tanya, mentioned that sometimes you have absentee parents. So it could be absent mom, it could be absent dad, but certainly when there's no father figure present, because daddy's the first one who would say, put that phone down. No, you can't have a cell phone, because that's when they go in their room, shut the door. You can't shut the door in here. So that's where, that parenting comes into play. I know Chris has something to say about that. Go ahead, Chris.
No, yeah, go ahead, Dr. Rather.
I just want to say, and because I don't want single mothers or fathers who are doing the right thing but have to work and keep a constant eye on their children. I don't want them to feel guilty, but because some mothers have kids and they got to provide, and some mothers are both mother and father, and some fathers are both father and mother. And so I don't want parents to hear this and feel guilty that you're not doing enough. But I tell parents, you need to do forensic parenting. I mean, you need to check social media. You need to really dig into the life of your child and understand who her friends are, what she's into, check on her self-esteem, because the best frontline defense that a girl has against trafficking is a healthy sense of who she is. Because traffickers use manipulation, and they use all of these things to manipulate girls to fill a void. But if we make sure the girl doesn't have a void, that's the best defense we can give her. Because when I first learned about trafficking, in the first training I went to, they told us that traffickers, would go places anywhere girls are. They would go to the mall, they would go to the movie theater, amusement park, wherever girls congregate. And they would go up to girls and say, "You're pretty." And if the girl looked back at him or her, looked back at the trafficker and said, "Thank you," they wouldn't bother with her. They went and attacked the girl and said, "You're pretty." And then she looked down at her shoes or act like she'd never heard that before. He would target her because he knew that there was some void in her that he could feel and manipulate. So if we make sure we give girls a healthy sense of who they are, their value, their worth, that is based on their inner identity, not based on the pocketbook you carry or the red bottoms you wear and how much hair we got, whatever. If we build them up based on their true identity, they have the defense they need to safeguard themselves against the manipulation that traffickers use.
And let me, Lanessa, let me do this. I got a couple of viewers on my Facebook page that can't post here, but Russell E. Mullins, thank you for coming on, man. Simplified Double Dog. He says, and speaking to what you just said, unfortunately, grooming is a real process, and these people take the time, meaning the predators, to give these young people the attention they may lack elsewhere, which I know is true. And one of the things that I stopped doing, Dr. Rather, since you came, has it been 5 years at least?
It's been so many. COVID
but in my church, we have some young ladies, and every now and then, I would take out $5 or $10 or whatever, and would give it to them directly. That was in time past, and say, "Oh, tell your mother, your mother be right there," or even the father, take you out to eat or get some McDonald's or something on your way home, etc. But you know what I stopped doing? I stopped giving it to them directly and give it to the parent. And the reason I did that, I said, don't allow no man to give you any money directly in your hand, especially in the presence and without the presence of your parents. So I would then put it in the parent's hand and explain to them, not to the child, but to the parent. I don't want, no man, them to, get the habit of taking money directly from a man, etc., because then something might come attached with that later, So that was just something that you really didn't touch on that, but in your teaching, something clicked with me to say, you know what, men need to, stop doing this. And don't want to take too much of this time, but I had to get this question out. Did you follow by any chance? I believe it was the mayor of Hyattsville when he got busted for what was that for, Lanessa?
I believe child pornography and pictures they found. Yeah.
Right. Okay, yeah. That was man, that was something else. I think we lost Jay Ferg, but I'm sure he'll pop back on. But let me turn it back over to you. I'm not sure if Rob got the fact finding 9,000 there.
I want a man to think he can't give a girl something, because maybe if you give her money and she knows that there is no expectation behind that money, she can see that difference too. So it's not about you. It's about the intent behind it, what comes after that. So any man who's giving a girl money and not expecting anything from her is also sending her the correct message too.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So my question is, what you guys do, is it more of a preventative program? And is there any kind of if you do recognize or find someone that's looking to get away from the sex trafficking, do you have a program in place to help them get away from that and get back to being a productive member of society? How does that work?
Yes, so we do, and My Sister, My Seed, because we are a small organization, we do education and empowerment. Those are our two focuses. Educate girls and families and communities about what sex trafficking is, what it looks like. But our main focus after the education is empowerment, making sure that the girl believes in herself, loves herself. And so we work on, making sure she has a healthy sense of self. So those are the two things we focus on at My Sister, My Seed, because I've wholeheartedly believe when a girl understands her worth. And that's why we do programs like we do Trust Your Sparkle is one of our programs that we do. And Trust Your Sparkle is half about education, helping girls understand, what trafficking is, but it's also about letting them know they were born awesome. They were born great, and to tap into that and expose them to all kinds of stuff that young girls a lot of times in underserved communities aren't exposed to. So they can project and reach for something that may not be in their immediate environment, but giving them hope and helping them know that they are worthy. And all of that is the empowerment piece that we focus on, because we understand that is the frontline defense that girls often lack, that they don't need anyone else around to have that piece in front of them. Because a lot of people think trafficking is like the movie Taken, where girls are being snatched in vans. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but the primary way girls are becoming victims and enslaved in trafficking is through that grooming process. And the empowerment piece, I believe, helps them not fall victim to that grooming process, because they have a sense of healthy self-esteem.
So Rob, thank you, Dr. Rather. So Rob is our resident fact finder and all around statistic guy, being the rocket scientist that he is. I know that some of the stats are kind of skewed because most of these crimes go, the victims don't report the crimes. But Rob, what kind of information do you have to share with us today?
All righty, here we go. So, what we got here is some information. For those of you that don't know, I was in law enforcement for X amount of years, and I am also the father of 3 beautiful daughters and 1 beautiful granddaughter. And so these statistics and this topic specifically hits close to home to me, for the simple fact that I am a single dad and raising my youngest daughter. And so, the one thing that I don't want ever in the entire world to happen to anyone's daughter, especially my own, is something along these lines. But according to the FBI.gov website, 62% of human trafficking suspects are African American. Now, there's a very big difference between suspects and victims. And Doctor, I'm just kind of like piggybacking or tailgating off of the points that you made earlier, just grabbing some stats off of websites and from personal knowledge. But 62% of trafficking suspects are African Americans. So that means that it could be one of your family members in the hood. It could be your neighbor down the block or 3 blocks over. It could be someone at your school. So just like the doctor says, someone at your school, someone at your church. It could be a police officer. It could be anybody. But that number is pretty high, because don't confuse suspects with victims. So suspects and victims they're not the same. All right. These are people that are going to jail, that are actually grooming people and actually going out here and stealing people and either selling you into slavery or pushing you in or making you feel like it's okay. 52% of all juvenile prostitution arrests are African Americans. That number is very, very high. Now, also one thing that I realized is that sometimes people get sex trafficking confused with what it really means. Sex trafficking could be prostitution, where you're being basically pimped. That's a form of sex crime. You could be basically kidnapped and sold across state lines into a sex trafficking ring. There's many different forms and fashions, just like theft. There's 1,000 different ways to steal or take something that doesn't belong to you. But I still think that number is extremely high. Excuse me. 40% of victims of human trafficking are African Americans. Just like the doctor said, she thinks that the number's higher. I believe her. I think that number is much, much higher than what that number right there is saying. The demand for African Americans is higher than any other race. The reason why is because I did a little digging into that topic right there, and come to find out that in the sex trafficking rings, there's more or less two reasons why people desire African American females more so than they do any other race. Even though a Caucasian female will fetch them a higher price, one of those reasons is, although a Caucasian female will fetch them a higher price on the underground market for sex trafficking, but they will also stick with African Americans because if they get caught, they're going to probably more than likely get a reduced sentence than if they had taken a white girl. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that they are highly desired. A lot of people that purchase or solicit for this type of behavior and pump money into these organizations have some sort of sick, twisted, weird fantasy, and so they desire African Americans. Another here is many suspects choose African Americans because they'll get a lower jail sentence. That's what I just said. Centoya Brown, if I'm saying that name correctly, served 15 years in prison for killing her white captor. She was pardoned or given a reprieve, I believe. I'm forgetting the exact the name of it, but she was given a reprieve after saving 15 years for killing the person that kidnapped her. Could you imagine? Like something like that happening to you? Like, it's just absolutely tragic. I bet the number right here, if you think that somebody that you know is either hooked up in or has something to do with a sex trafficking ring or a victim of sex trafficking, please look at the number at the bottom of the screen. It just so happens it's the same number I have written on the board right here. Okay. Make sure that you call. If you see something, say something. The two organizations, one of the organizations I actually belong to. Okay. But one of the organizations that I've read a lot on is rightsforgirls.org. It's a really all-inclusive website, as well as the Dr. Rather's website. But Rights for Girls is one that it really gets into the nuts and bolts of, who this directly affects. I mean, a lot of these children suffer traumatic upbringings. And so, if you're scared of a gun, you're less likely to actually own one because something happened to you that's traumatic that involved a gun. There's always a reason. And the second one is OUR Rescue. Okay, this is an organization that I belong to. It stands for Operation Underground Railroad Rescue.org. Now, this is an organization that hits hard. Okay, period. Point blank. There's a lot of special guys that I were in my unit before in the military. As soon as they came out, they became fathers and stuff, and then they signed up for Operation Underground Railroad. And what they do is they do not operate on American soil, but they're the ones that actually travel to foreign countries, gun up, go in, kill people, and take those kids out of there by force. They do it with the full knowledge and approval of the host nation. But these guys are actually directly sponsored by people like me, people like you, and we're hoping that you give to all these organizations when you can. But OperationUndergroundRescue.org, OUR.org is a great website to go to. And remember and keep this in mind when you're thinking about this while you're driving to work tomorrow. 12 to 14 years old, history of trauma. It's a form of modern day slavery. And no, you don't have to cross lines in order to be considered a sex trafficker. It could be 100 miles away from home, or it could be your next door neighbor right in your own neighborhood.
It is. Thank you for that, Rob.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Oh, thank you.
Always informative and way more than we even thought we could get from you. So thank you so much.
Thank Dr. Rather.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Chris, did you have any other questions for Dr. Rather? Do you have any questions from our viewers or comments that you want to share?
Well, I want to take the time to at least thank a couple people that's on Facebook watching. Russell Mullins, who I just mentioned. Lisa Harvey, glad to see you on. Thank you, Erica Childs. Hello, long time. Thank you for watching. Michael Weber, man, great to see you on. Cassie Hammond, you've been faithful. Thank you for sticking with us, and we appreciate you. Tariq Jones, appreciate you. Angela Nicole, how you doing, girl? Hope all is well, health is intact. Kim Dale, appreciate you coming on. ML Williams, Robert Cockcroft, thank you for coming on. And my cousin Victor Mason, man, appreciate you coming on. and Donald Murphy, man. Look, appreciate all you guys. Don't see the YouTube viewers. I'll look at that, the numbers later on. But we thank you once again for always supporting, especially a topic like this. And we definitely do me a favor, just share it, get it out. We always end up with about 800 to 1,000 views after the show, and we appreciate that. I'm sure Lanessa's going to pull some more information out of Dr. Rather, like how we may be able to support and get that information to you. So the host for the day, I'm going to turn it back over to you, madam.
Thank you, Chris. At the bottom of our screen, you can see the ticker going across. That information is for the National Human Trafficking Resource Center. So certainly you can reach out to that phone number and that email if you need more information or you have a desire to support in some way, or if you know someone that might be affected. Also, Chris has just put up Dr. Rather's email address if you want to reach out to her to support her organization. Like Rob said, if you see something, say something, and you should reach out to the authorities or to the human trafficking hotline if you see something that looks suspicious. I mean, even in healthcare, when I was working at Children's Hospital, there were procedures in place that if someone came in with a young lady and the young lady looked like she was, like you said, had her eyes down, or they just didn't look, they looked like an unlikely pair. This person looked like they were forcing this individual. There were measures in place to ensure that that person was protected and they got help. So there's just little things sometimes you'll see, like in the mall or riding public transportation. Things just don't look right. And sometimes we ignore it, but really there could be something going on. And I know some people are like, I don't want to get involved. But we're parents, we're grandparents, we're brothers, sisters, and we need to protect each other in our communities. As Rob said, we have a disproportionate amount of, young Black women who are pulled into, things that they really shouldn't be involved in just because somebody wasn't there to protect them. I have a girlfriend, Tanya, who's very passionate. She's been on making comments, and she even told me that she wanted to actually volunteer. This is before today. She's passionate about the cause. So I made sure that I told her, be sure you listen today. So Dr. Rather, how can we support? What can we do besides see something, say something? What can we do to support your organization or just support some of the other organizations you mentioned around this effort to keep our young women protected?
What I would say is make sure you are involved. That's number one. And there on our website, if you go to our website, mysistermyseed.org, there are several ways that you can help the community, help young girls, and be an advocate for young girls. But let me just tell you a few of them. You can make sure that the young girls in your life know their worth and their value. Make sure you are engaging with them. And make sure that you are having conversations with them about, what dangers are out there, like, adult people, adult men, especially, who are saying certain things to you about your body, about inappropriate things, because grown men should not be saying inappropriate things to young girls. So just having conversation, and it doesn't have to be with your child, with your niece, but there are a lot of latchkey young girls in our communities who don't have extended families, who don't have people looking out for them. And we need to be the village. So that means we need to take time to just say hi, create some kind of relationship with young girls who may be latchkey young girls who don't have that kind of support maybe in their own homes, because we have to look out for our community. I would also say find a nonprofit, a small nonprofit. I recommend My Sister, My Seed, but if you don't want to donate and financially support my nonprofit, there are so many nonprofits that are out here who don't get large amounts of money from the government who could use your help. A lot of people, all the women that I know that have started trafficking organizations, fund it out of their pocket, like I fund mine out of my pocket, and we could use your support. Also, make sure whatever church you go to, whatever community organization, if you are a sorority member, a fraternity member, or you are in some kind of organization, I know that we do a lot for the community, but make sure one of the things on your calendar of events to do is invite someone in to talk about trafficking, because I guarantee not everybody in your organization, in your church, in your sorority knows that it's happening to the degree that it's happening, and that it's happening predominantly to the African American young girls. When I think about R. Kelly, when Rob was sharing the statistics, one thing that I remembered was another reason why young girls, why people aren't charged and severely punished for, and with it disproportionately happening to Black girls and Black girls being victims, is because Georgetown Law School did a study a long time ago, not a long time ago, maybe within the last 7 years, and showed how Black girls are seen as less like children and more like adults. So we don't rush to protect young Black girls like we do other girls, because we see white girls as little children, but we tend to see Black girls as grown and fast, and they this, and we judging and labeling them. And that is why R. Kelly was able to, right under our nose, in our face, manipulate young Black women for decades, and nothing happened, because we don't see young Black girls as needing help and protection, and they do. So a lot of small organizations that are doing this work that is really helping, on that are on the street, hands-on helping, don't get the financial support or the volunteer support that they need. And so I would recommend doing that too, supporting nonprofits who do this work, and making sure you have if you can just empower one girl, if you can make sure one girl knows that she's loved, you're saving her from at least 7 years of being raped multiple times.
Wow.
And if you can just look at it as that, plain and simple, empowering one girl can save her from being raped multiple times a day and living in chains that are not on her wrist, but are on her mind, that have manipulated her to think that this is all she has, and this person who's enslaving her is the only one who's going to ever love her. We got to make sure our young girls aren't susceptible to those kind of chains being placed in their minds. And how we do that is loving them, making sure that they know their worth, and supporting them, whether they are our girls' bloodline, or whether they're just in our community or in our sphere of influence and contact. If we do that, we can curb the degree that sex trafficking has, especially on young Black girls.
Tell us about the shirt you have on. Defiant Women Win.
Oh yeah, listen. I think, and this is really what I'm raising young women, empowering them with, to be defiant. Defiant means that you don't really have to play by the rules that are set up for you. And I'm a preacher, and I know it's a lot of patriarchy out here, but I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it.
Yes.
I think that, I was raised in a church, but there's a lot of things that I was raised. And when I heard this one quote many years ago that says, "Well-behaved women seldom make history," I knew that I had to, make sure I wasn't well-behaved, because well-behaved keeps you not opening your mouth, not being assertive in the way you need to be assertive in this world for women to get what God has for us. So that's what Defiant Women is about. It's about making sure you step over the lines that people forbid you to cross, so you can get what God has for you.
It's all about empowerment. I absolutely love it. I would love one of those T-shirts. Let us know. Can we purchase one? Are we able to purchase
on my website on defiantwomenwin.com?
defiantwomenwin.com. All right, ladies, all of you Defiant Women, the sisters of belief that I know that are out there. Defiant Women.
I would even wear one.
No, Chris.
Hey. Well, what better way to strike up a conversation?
You're right.
I know who I am.
Yeah.
So I ain't scared.
Need that, and the reason why my organization is called My Sister and My Seed, not and, there's no and in the middle, but why I focused on my seed young women and my sister, is because of this other quote I had. I'm always hearing these quotes, but one quote said, young girls who love themselves, I can't remember verbatim, grow up to be, empowered women. But I'm like, if you didn't get that as a young girl, what do you grow up to be? You grow up to be a docile woman who never owns her power. And we do have a lot of grown women who had seeds planted in them as young girls who grew up to not be assertive and go after everything God has for them. So I want to empower young girls and before they get to be grown women so they can grow up with what they need to be their empowered selves, but also address grown women who have grown up being passive in life and not being aggressive and not feeling like they had agency to do so. Feeling like if God called you to sit in the second chair, you a woman and a man is the head and all of the. No, live your life. God called you to do amazing things, and you need to have self-belief and be empowered to do those things. And so,
right, and we're not being misogynistic in any way. We understand the man still, is the head of a lot of things. I'm going to say that. The defiant woman that I can be. I'm going to say that.
Ooh, girl, she defiant. Ooh,
but certainly, as you mentioned, Dr. Rather, be quiet, Chris. As you mentioned, women who don't grow up with that powerful self-esteem, it becomes a generational curse because then it passes down to their daughters. And, if they don't have children, maybe they, their sons in some manner. So it's generational. It continues down the line if it doesn't
and
it's the support they need. And
it's not a curse as in if it happened to me, is going to happen to you. It's learned behavior. It's not that, because I believe if you love God and the Holy Spirit and God's Spirit lives in you, there's no cursing on you. You can't be cursed. It is about you doing what you know to do. You doing what you see. And so I don't want people to think you are cursed, because that means to me that you're kind of helpless, that you can't do that because it is in your bloodline and it is there's no way out. Curse means you're under that thing and you can't help yourself. But I don't believe that. I believe if God's Spirit lives in me and I own my worth and my power, there's nothing that can curse me and hinder me. I have to unlearn some things that I was taught by generations before me, and to say, I don't want any man to think that a woman owning her power means he's less than a man. A woman can be, everything she needs to be and God called her to be. But, a lot of women think, you can't live out your full self because you're going to emasculate some men. But I don't abide by that. All of us need to walk in our power, men and women. And for men to walk in their power doesn't mean you suppress women or don't allow them to walk in their power and be everything God called them to be too. I know I'm rambling on, but y'all done fired.
Preach, sis, preach.
Russell Mullen said, first of all, thank you for doing this. We all need to be vigilant. Matter of fact, he's in law enforcement. He said, if you ever need a hand with anything, reach out to him. That's Russell E. Mullins. He's on Facebook right now on my page. Also, he said God had a woman and women to carry his living word, which we know Mary birthed Jesus through the Holy Spirit. And so why should they be silent? And so I agree with that wholeheartedly. Thank you, Russell. And, I first of all, just appreciate you empowering not just our young girls, but women in general, Dr. Rather. Certainly has been a great help, a great informative show that definitely is most important. And so to the viewers that's on, definitely share this broadcast. It's most important. Doesn't take a minute, but to just hit the share button and spread it around so that other people can see it. We know some people, usually watch it later on. Some of the reasons that you can't, the people on Facebook can't see their comments right now is there's something that needs to be unlocked in my StreamYard, which is going to be done by the next show, and we'll have that taken care of. But the people that are on YouTube can comment. So we thank you for all those that did make comments. Vanessa?
Thank you so much, Chris. And again, like as you said, thank you, Dr. Rather, for this information, this empowerment session. Thank you for sharing. Rob, again, those great statistics you shared. We love it. And if I can take anything away from this, it's definitely to see something, say something, help at least one young woman to feel empowered, to build her self-esteem, be present as parents. If you can't, ask auntie, uncle, cousin, friend to help out. Also, I want to share, Dr. Rather, that as a cigar culture, we definitely give back to wonderful causes. So later in the year, around October, there's a group of Sisters of the Leaf, we call ourselves, who smoke cigars in the area, who get together, and we do give back to a great cause. So everybody, all of our listeners, look out for that information coming in October, and we would love to help your organization in some way.
What's happening in October? What y'all gonna do?
Oh, well, it's called, since you asked.
Yeah.
So Kim Deal, myself, Monique Jones, we spearhead this day called No Bra Day. It's a national day, and it's for breast cancer. So we usually have a lounge that we have our event at, and we do a photo shoot, and we come and we support No Bra Day, and we give back to an organization.
I'm not.
Doesn't have to be really.
I like it. No bra.
But it's a national cause. It's a national cause, and it's a party for a purpose. So we give back to organizations. So we would love to support yours. I already got the open.
Thank you. And if anyone wants to join our email list, please do so. You can do that right on our website, mysistermyseed.org, just, so you can stay abreast of what's going on, what we're doing, and how you can join and volunteer for any event that we have.
And as Chris said, we definitely will have you back, because we know you are an expert in other topics as well, like relationships, women's empowerment. So we'll have you back on the show when we talk about that juicy topic.
Yeah, I want to be here.
We got a show coming up soon, and we might need your help on that.
Oh, please remind me. I started a new YouTube channel to infuse all the things I love. It's called Faith, Love, and Trading, because I learned to day trade. I'm still learning, but I'm really, a whole lot better at it now than when I first started 6 months ago. And I started day trading as a means to fund my for-profit and my nonprofit. And I talk about relationships. I talk about the psychology behind trading. So I talk a lot about relationships. So if y'all want to follow that, or bring me back for the conversation that y'all have about relationships, yeah, I would love to do that.
Yeah, because we might need a referee. We're gonna be fighting on that shit.
A good, clean fight is always good when we're trying to understand each other, and have healthy, wholesome relationships, because that's what I'm into. Healthy relationships with myself, and with, in romantic relationships and sisterhood. It all needs to be healthy, and it all starts with having a healthy sense of self.
Absolutely. So before we end, Jay, Rob, you have anything for Dr. Rather? Any last words?
Well, Dr. Rather, I would say continue doing your great work, and we'll definitely do our part to support you in any way that we can. And I will definitely be making a contribution to your organization.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated this conversation, and I really appreciate it, especially when men are involved in the conversation. So I don't take that for granted. Women all over the place are talking about sex trafficking, but when you have brothers who are talking about it too, it really moves the needle further and broadens the awareness. So thank y'all for showing up and doing this, and being willing to talk about this stuff.
So, Dr. Rather, I just want to say thank you for tolerating my plagiarism. And which is basically what it was. But I just wanted to say, just piggyback off of what Jay just said, continue doing your good work. And if you could do us a favor, tell me what your website is again.
mysistermyseed.org.
What was that?
mysistermyseed.org.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
mysistermyseed.org. mysistermyseed.org.
mysistermyseed.org, mysistermyseed.org, mysistermyseed.org. If you can go to the store and buy a $7 cup of watered down coffee from Starbucks, you can contribute to mysistermyseed.org.
Amen.
Thank you, Rob.
And
Thank
it
you.
is watered down because they sure don't make coffee strong enough for me.
Really? Wow.
No,
Chris.
they don't. I like mine blacker than black.
So, Chris, any last words from you?
You know what? Vanessa, this is your time, your show, and I'm going to defer and yield to you.
All right. Well, I just want to close it out by again thanking you, Dr.
Before you
Rather.
turn it over to Dr. Rather.
Yeah, this has been awesome. We usually like to spend an hour and having our viewers on with us. So thank you, co-host, for being here. Please share, everyone who's listening, please share this video. You can share after the broadcast is over. You can also go to YouTube and find us there at the Smoking Jacket broadcast. And then once you get there to that page, then you want to also subscribe to the page so you can follow us and know when we go live. So when we bring Dr. Rather back and talk about relationships, you can be front and center with that conversation too. So invite your friends, support the organization, and we'll see you guys next time on the Smoking Jacket broadcast. Until next time.
Dr. Rather, you got any parting words to close out with?
No, just thank you, and just if you can do one thing from this show, make sure you are making sure one young girl knows her worth. If you can do that, you are engaged in the battle against sex trafficking.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's our time. We'll see you on the next show, and hopefully the next show coming up, I can't let the cat out the bag yet, but it should definitely be empowering, informative, and will help us culturally deal with our finances. All right.
All right.
Don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere, Dr. Rather.
Okay.
Let me end
Go to
this
the green room.